Welcome to the Buff Show podcast, brought to you in conjunction with the American Adversaries radio show. You can listen live on the show 5 p.m. every Sunday through Friday on AmericanAdversaries.com, or if you're in Central Florida, over the airwaves at AM 950 and FM 94.9. I am the Bufferman, Matt Buff, and I'm joined by the host of the American Adversaries radio show, philosopher and political mad scientist Christopher Hart. Good to see you. Good to be with you, Chris.
You got some of that right there? You got
some Purell
well,
here's the thing.
Give me some. I got to have some of that Purell. You shook my hand.
There's a problem
you shook my hand. We had contact with one another. There you go.
I'll let you have that. But
now I'm better.
With the way things are going, Chris, $25
Love
for
the smell
this
of
roll
that
of.
What's that now?
$25 for this roll of paper. This is like gold, my friend. I got toilet paper for $25, my friend, and I got some Purell, half a bottle of it. I'll give it to you for $15. What do you say to that? This is the new mantra. The new drugs on the street are toilet paper and hand sanitizer.
Unfortunately, I think you're right. My brother said, he called me earlier today, and he said he was going into the Publix, a local shopping market here in Orlando, Florida, and out from the Publix come a couple of, shall we say, rather large women with stacks and stacks of toilet paper. You got to wonder, how much do you need? I mean, how much toilet paper do you really need?
Please, Lord Chris, tell me that's where that story is.
That's where it begins and ends.
That's where it begins and ends.
This too shall pass.
This too shall pass as well, but it might be like a kidney stone. There's a lot of predictions out there. Now,
yeah, a lot of pain.
Now, we talked about the American Adversaries radio show at night at 5 p.m. Central and Eastern.
Right.
So that would be 6
p.m. Central.
That's right.
And that would be, no, wait a minute. That'd be 4 p.m.
4 Central.
That's right. And 2 Pacific. You're going the wrong way here with this.
That's right. See, I get confused. All this crazy Wuhan virus. And speaking of Wuhan virus and speaking of the show, earlier this week, you did spend a lot of time talking about the origins and the political fallout from the coronavirus. In fact, you called it the Wuhan virus, and I started doing that because we were on the show together, and you talked about the panic. So why?
Well, actually, we're now calling it the Wuhan Panic.
The Wuhan Panic.
As well. It just seemed like the numbers never were really adding up with this. In terms, you might have heard the terminology, we don't know the denominator. We don't know how many people are infected. But we were all over that. We've talked about the infection rates. We've talked about how a lot more people have been infected than we know. When the test kits come out, and they're going out into millions now here in America, you're going to get a lot more people who test positive. But what you're not going to get is a significant, or shall I say, a similarly large increase in deaths.
Right.
So we're going to have more people infected. That's going to increase the panic, but we won't have a significant rise or similar rise in the number of deaths. But that will not matter, because there's something bigger going on here that we're also talking about on the American Adversaries radio show, and that is the geopolitical gamesmanship that's going on here.
This is a big part of it, Chris.
It is, because now this is a part of, but along with the Wuhan virus. Once again, we don't really know the origins of the virus. We do know that it flourished, it began to grow in Wuhan. We also know that the Chinese are now blaming the United States of America for the beginning of the virus.
Which is insane, because we know it originated from Wuhan. So why would they be doing that, Chris?
Well, and because it's a disinformation campaign. The Chinese are not stupid. Okay, let's start with that assumption.
No,
let's start with they're very smart.
Yes, indeed.
That they have a very clever and effective intelligence agency, which involves people at all levels of society. And as a matter of fact, we reported on the show, this would be a couple of months ago now, about the arrest of a Harvard professor here in the United States by the name of, he was the chair of the biology department at Harvard University. His name is Charles Lieber. I believe how you pronounce it. You spell it Lieber, Charles Lieber, if you want to Google it. he was arrested and charged with concealing funding that he was receiving from the Chinese government for basically recruiting Chinese spies. And he also the plan was meant to, they called it the 1,000 Talents Plan, and it's still in effect. And it was meant to recruit talent for China overseas. And two of his assistants were also arrested. That would be Yang Ying Yi, 29, and Zhaozong Zhang, 30. They were charged with smuggling biological agents, visa fraud, conspiracy, and acting as an agent of a foreign government, China. They were on their way back to China with biological material in 22 vials. And now China is blaming the United States for the origin of the virus and saying that the United States military, the Army in particular, planted it in Wuhan. So we know that China is engaged in a misinformation campaign. That's quite obvious here.
And it wouldn't be the first time.
No, it would not be the first time. We also know that they pay attention to when other intelligence agencies do their operations. We also know that they paid attention to the Russia hoax and to the Ukraine hoax, and they saw how relatively easy it was under the heightened political atmosphere we have here in the United States, that it would be so easy to manipulate the left into carrying their baggage for them, taking a scare of a virus because they've provided scant details. Okay? In the city of Wuhan, which is like 5 million people, they're trying to tell us they had less than 100,000 cases. No.
We know that's not
the
true
infection
just based
rate,
on the WHO
right,
numbers.
Exactly. With viral sequencing, this is how we know the infection rate is much higher than what we are being told, okay, by the Chinese and by what we know of our own studies here in the United States. Once again, when the tests go out, we're going to get a lot more positive tests, but the number of deaths is not going to increase with the same rate. And so I do believe that the Chinese all along knew what they were dealing with here. They are using it as a misinformation campaign against the United States because just look at who's benefiting from all of this. Okay? All of our adversaries are benefiting from this. The Democrats and the media think they're benefiting from this because they want to drive Trump out of town. Now, you said the other night on the radio show that the one thing that was different between this virus and the government's response and other viruses like the H1N1 and the SARS and the swine flu, where the difference was Trump.
Yes.
And I agreed with you. And then after the show, I thought, but it's a little bit more than that. The difference this time is that Trump is making America great again. He is making America a strong world power. He is reinforcing and reintroducing the idea of sovereign nation states and the fact that the United States of America should be the beacon and the city on the hill for all other sovereign nations. He tells other nations on a regular basis, make your own country great. This is not what the Chinese want to hear. It's not what the left wants to hear. And it's damn sure not what the European Union wants to hear. So I'm here to tell you that they've all bought into this misinformation campaign because it works so very well for them. Having said that, yes, this is a virus. Yes, people can die from it. But there is also geopolitical gamesmanship going on here in a big way, and we call it on the American Adversaries radio show, and you helped do that the other day.
Yes, we did, my friend. Now we got to do more Perel.
There you go. Oh, my God. All right. Well, we're out of here. We got to go. I got to go take a shower, ladies and gentlemen.
See? What?
Boy, that stuff smells good. I love it.
One thing I want to talk about is these test kits go out. Now, President Trump declared a state of emergency. When you guys hear that, don't panic on that either, because that means it opens up funding for different areas, and these test kits are going out. If you can hold your breath and count to 10, all right, you're fine. Don't go. You don't need to get tested. But if you feel symptoms and you feel things like that, then yes, go get tested, for crying out loud. And if you're really in a pickle, $25 for a roll of toilet paper.
Yeah, $50 for their leftover Purell.
That's right. It's going fast.
Don't forget, all you retailers and the people in the economy out there, that toilet paper will have to be replaced at some point.
Absolutely.
Thanks, Matt.
We'll see you soon.